One thing I've always hated is living in hustle mode. I feel like this whole hustle culture is innately part of the whole consulting industry, right? There's this level of competitiveness, there's this constant search and rush to win clients, to land contracts, and there's a lot of competitiveness. So that means that oftentimes we find ourselves in hustle mode, but that goes against everything that I believe that we need to be doing in order to create businesses that last. So, in this episode, what we're going to be talking about is hustle mode and how to alleviate it in this new year. Because guess what, guys? We can land business with more ease and it doesn't require so much hustle. There's a misconception that we don't exist, that somehow our ability to excel at the highest level of our industry is limited, that overcoming barriers as a woman of color would be insurmountable. But what would happen if we decided to venture out on our own despite everything we're up against? I'll tell you. Welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angelina Davis, a healthcare consultant, consulting coach, high performance fanatic, wife, and proud girl mom. I help transform female professionals into thriving solo consultants. And just like you, I'm wearing all the hats and doing all the things. So this podcast is to empower the busy female professionals to move past fear to start and grow a successful consulting business, despite the obstacles you may encounter. We'll dive deep into consulting practice, business strategy, mindset, and more. So grab your cup of coffee or tea if that's your thing, and let's get started. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angelina Davis, and today we are going to be talking about what you need to do if you don't want to live in the hustle mode all year long. And I thought about this episode because this weekend I was at my younger daughter's tournament and she had an amazing play. You know, one of those plays where you get super excited as a parent and you're grabbing your camera, you're trying to film it all and you're cheering the whole time because they are showing so much hustle, especially in sports. We kind of glorify hustle, right? Because it's how oftentimes we win tough games. So hustle is definitely needed at times. And so she was playing and saved the ball that was about to go out. And I saw her race to the edge of the court and she popped it back into the middle of the court if you're familiar with volleyball, and then raced to the other side to set the ball to the hitter. And when it came back over, she set another perfect set in order to get the kill. And I was screaming. I was super excited. I'm still excited, as you can tell. But although hustle is needed, especially in a game, a tough game, a close game, and even in our businesses when things get difficult and we have to really lean fully into all that we have in us in order to generate an outcome, hustle can be our best friend. And I was super excited. I posted it on Instagram. I put the little Giphy up there, or the GIF that said hustle mode, right? Because that just showed that she gave extra effort, that she was really trying to win, that she was on the grind. And I was super proud of it in that moment. But the thing is, one of the reasons why she had to hustle so hard in that play is because initially when the ball came over, the pass was shanked, meaning that something went wrong. It did not go as planned. It wasn't the way that things should have been. And so oftentimes when we go into hustle mode, it's because we don't have those foundations set. And so I was thinking to myself, this is a perfect example of what we do in business all of the time. We find ourselves having to lean so heavily into hustle mode and this hustle culture because there is something missing. And so when you think about that, no matter how impressive it may be for you to hustle to get out of that situation and to make things better again, it's not how it was intended in the first place. So although necessary, it's not where we want to live. And so this is what I think that we have to focus on as we move into the new year. We're thinking about how we want to grow, because in order for us to get to where we want to be in the long term, hustling can't be our norm. Yes, hustling is good. Yes, there are times that we have to dig in and we have to crank things out and get the work done and really lean fully into whatever we need to do in that moment in order to make things successful. But it's not where we need to live, because at the end of the day, when it comes to business, when it comes to growing your business, you really need three things. You need a desirable offer. You need something that people actually want and they need. You need to be able to effectively market your services, to put yourself out there to be seen, to be more visible, to be recognized. And then at the end of the day, you need a sales process and a way to really carry that client or that potential client from becoming familiar with you as a expert brand and an expert provider to wanting to work with you and to decide to sign on for your services. So those things have to be in place. And it means that because we know that ahead of time, we can set up a way to do that with more ease. We don't have to hustle all of the time. I know sometimes we feel like hustling means that we're doing a lot of work. We feel like it means that we're building something special and we're on the grind. And I'll be honest, it feels good sometimes if we're really honest about it. But we don't want to live there, because at the end of the day, if we're constantly hustling, if we're constantly trying to hustle to generate business, we are not more than likely going to be taking care of ourselves, because hustle creates stress. In those moments, even when I think about my daughter having that play on the volleyball court, her adrenaline was rushing and she was super anxious because she's trying to get to where she needs to be on the court. She's trying to make everything work. You're a little fearful because you don't know what's going to happen next. And while that can be short-lived and that's exciting in a set time and space, when you're constantly living there, when you're constantly in that mode, that creates a level of stress on your body and on your mind mentally that doesn't need to be there. That is not good for your health. It's not good for your well-being. And I'll be honest, it's not good for your business. So at the end of the day, although we like to sometimes be in that hustle mode, we need to have an actionable plan that we can put in place and that we can begin to execute and have the capacity to execute in a way that we are able to achieve success over the long term. So this is where I want us to think about some ways that we can improve the way that we're approaching our business in general, so that we don't have to live in this hustle mode nonstop. And so the first thing is, what is your personal bandwidth? What I mean by that is, what's your capacity? What are you able to easily do? Because when we enter these modes of being in a high hustle state, when we're doing a lot, when we're trying to get a lot accomplished and we don't have the space, the room, the time, the energy to do it, that's where we run into problems. That's where we begin to spend late nights up all of the time instead of it being a one-off project. We're really pushing ourselves to our limits. We're not getting the rest that we need, which is going to hinder our ability to be creative, to be more innovative, and to really help the clients at the level that we know we can in order for them to be successful. So we cannot create scenarios where we are overwhelmed and unable to do the work. So one of the first things that you want to consider is, what is your capacity? What is the ability for you to get that work done? What space do you have? What time do you have? How much energy do you have? And we have one or two choices when we're thinking about that. We can either create more time, space, and energy, or we have to live within the limits that we currently have set. But we cannot go beyond our capacity to do the work. And so one of the first things we have to consider is our capacity. Now, when we're thinking about hustle in general, and one of the reasons why we end up hustling a lot is because we don't necessarily have a full understanding as to how we have been able to land clients in the past. And what I've found over time is that hustle comes from this level of uncertainty when things have gone wrong, when they haven't gone as we would have anticipated in our mind, because maybe we thought that the way things would play out, it would be much easier. And when it is not as simple as it once seemed, then we become very anxious and frustrated, and we lean into this hustle mode and try to push and drive and force things to happen. And often that's because we don't know how we've created success in the past. So, one of the things you want to consider is, how have you landed the last, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 clients that you've had? Think about that. Map that process out, that journey out, and understand what were all of the touch points that you were able to have with that particular individual that led them from the point of getting to know you and becoming a I would like to say a lead for your business, to moving to the point of being able to convert on a sale. When you understand better what you did along the way and what was required in order to generate the business that you want and need, then it's easier for you to see that as a more formal process. You understand what you need to do in order to market yourself effectively, and then lead that client to the point at which they want to collaborate with you, where they want to actually buy your services and they want to work at a deeper level. So you want to understand the techniques that you use, the tactics that you use. What was the message that you shared? Where were you showing up? How often were you showing up? All of those things are what we often overlook when we're in the hustle, because in that moment, we're just trying to make things happen. We're just moving as fast as we can. And we're not necessarily thinking about what each action is generating as a result, and how all of those pieces of the puzzle come together to lead to the outcome that we desire. So the second thing is to really map out how you've been able to create success in the past, and understand better what you did at each point in order to land the business that you want to achieve. And then you want to think of sales as a process. So once you've understood the journey, you then have to think about the way that you are able to discuss options and needs and wants and desires with them, and really sell the transformation that you're offering. You have to think of that as its own separate process, and how you're able to navigate that. It is going to make it much easier for you to be able to land the business that you want on a consistent basis. And really most importantly, above and beyond all of the things that I've mentioned, you have to be able to practice patience. I think that, really patience is an underrated thing. We often feel that by being patient, we are somehow taking too long, or we may put ourselves in a position where we may miss opportunities, and we may not be able to capitalize on business that is coming our way. But that is just not true. Patience actually allows you to be comfortable with some of that discomfort, so that you're able to problem solve and come up with better solutions that are more effective and more efficient for your business. I go back to the reminder that in most cases, it is only 20% of the efforts that you're putting in currently that are generating 80% of the results. So we know that we have to focus in on those things that are truly important, and not get lost in those things that aren't. And when we're in hustle mode, and when we're constantly hustling, we're trying to make sales, and we're trying to land business, and we're trying to grow, and we're just moving as fast as we can, we don't take time out to be patient and observe what is causing the success that we are able to generate. And because we're not patient, we jump from one thing to the next. So even if you find a strategy that may work for marketing or for sales, or maybe there's a way that you message and position your offer, because you are not patient enough to see how that works out over an extended period of time, you may either think that it's going to work better than it actually does, because you see success initially, but then that success doesn't last. Or you may be on the brink of really a huge breakthrough, but you leave it and drop it because it's taking longer than you would have anticipated when you started. So patience is a virtue. It is so important for us to practice and to still have and to focus on iterating the process over and over again. The more that we know, the more that we understand about the steps, the processes, the workflows, the techniques that we're putting in place, and we have an appreciation for how well they work, then we will be able to make more educated decisions as to which direction to go in. So, overall, hustle is definitely needed. There are going to be times where we have to, burn the midnight oil and get things done. And I'll be honest, there's excitement in some level of that hustle when you're able to save the day and kind of steer everything in the right direction. But that's meant to be temporary. It's not meant for you to live in that space. And so as you're thinking about your growth in this new year, I want you to think about how you can bring in more ease and alleviate some of the hustle that has become the norm in your life and in your business. And that comes once again from creating a system and processes that allow you to function more smoothly without the anxiety, without the stress, without the overwhelm, and in a way that's a little bit more predictable so that you can rest assured that you have a business that's sustainable over time so that you can plan your future. You can plan the outings and the vacations that you want to plan with your family. You can plan to send your children to whatever school or even college or wherever it may be, or take the trips that you want with your loved ones. You can plan all these things out because you have the ability to anticipate and predict what business is going to look like. That comes from having processes in place that work and not from hustling all the time. Hustling will never give you that sense of predictability and comfort and ease that you're desiring. So if you are tired of the hustle mode, and if you're ready to lean into more ease, then this is how you do it. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. Please share it with others. Tell a friend about it. Don't forget to leave your review on Apple Podcasts or your rating on Spotify. And if you're not following the show, follow the show. I love to have these conversations with you week after week, and definitely carry that over on Instagram or LinkedIn. So don't be afraid to reach out. And until next time, let's drop the hustle, increase the ease, and let's watch our businesses grow. Okay, take care. Talk to you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave your review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share it with a friend. We're on a mission to increase the success and longevity of women in consulting, and you can help us do that. Also, I'd love to hear from you, so let's connect at Dr. Angelina Davis on Instagram or LinkedIn. And don't forget to visit excelatconsulting.com for more information to support your consulting journey. Until next time, take care.